Today we're making the blurry heatwave effect with all the built-in effects inside of After Effects. What's up guys, Ryan here and welcome back to another tutorial, and today we're talking about the heatwave effect. Recently I got caught out away from my computer working on another client's computer, and they wanted the heatwave effect similar to that awesome plugin that Andrew Kramer has, but that wasn't available to me. So today we're recreating that effect. We're using the built-in effects in After Effects, and that was a lot of effects. So let's just jump right in. Effect, transition effect. All right, cool. So in this first example, we're using this awesome 3D render. This is from my buddy, Mark Plunkett, also known as Plunketonius. And fun fact about him, he worked on Pacific Rim 1, or also known as Robot Jox. If anybody is old enough to understand that movie, give this video a thumbs up, because that is an old movie. Anyways, so we got this cool stamping effect. The arms coming down, we get these nice little sparks coming out. What we're gonna do is add a little bit of that heat wave, heat distortion effect on top of this footage. So let's go ahead and line it up to when the arm comes back up. So right here, we want some of this residual heat effect to distort our footage. So first thing we'll do is we need a way to generate our heat effect. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and I'll start a new solid and I'll call this fractal. And I'm gonna go ahead and pre-comp this. And let's look at our solid. So what I'm gonna do is start with some fractal noise. And basically what we're trying to emulate is getting that little fiery distortion, you know, campfire sort of effect that you would see out in the real world. So first thing I'll start with is, let's go ahead and set an expression to this. Time, and we'll times that by 100, and this will get some automatic movement going. And let's go ahead and just look at that real fast. So this is still way too slow. Yeah, we need something a little more dangerous looking or something. What I'll go ahead and do is, let's try setting this to 300. All right, so that's moving a little bit faster. We'll see how that looks. So let's start adjusting the fractal. So we're gonna use this to generate the displacement. So we need some high points of contrast. So let's go ahead, I'll go ahead and leave this at basic. I'll leave that soft linear. Let's start increasing this contrast. All right, cool. So we got that. You know, starting to get those black and white areas. I'll bring the brightness down a little bit just to kind of move our edges in a little bit. And it might be a little small right now because we kind of want some bigger chunks, bigger distortions. So go ahead and I'll just move the scale up a little bit. Maybe something like that. Cool. And we kind of don't really want any sort of defining edge or line. So on top of this, I'm just going to add a fast blur. And maybe I'll just set this up, you know, something like that maybe. Let's go ahead and just take a look at that real quick. All right, cool. So yeah, we're just looking for some sort of fiery, you know, turbulent-y sort of noise here that'll drive our blur in the next frame. So let's go ahead and I'll close this. Let's go ahead and make a new adjustment layer. This will be our heat wave. And let's start working on the displacement. So go ahead and double click our displacement map, and we already have, you know, some things happening here. So what I'll do is I'm going to select our fractal, which is our, you know, what's generating our noise. And let's go ahead and instead of using the red and green channel, we only have black and white values. So we're going to just use the luminance on both these channels. And already we're kind of getting a little bit of a nice little wavy effect in here. Cool. So another thing that we're having issues with is if you see at the very top here, we're kind of losing our edges and a little bit of transparency is showing through. So we're going to mask this off, but just to kind of help with that, let's add a motion tile. And let's mirror the edges and maybe just expand this out a little bit. Put it on top here. And let's just go 110 pixels on both sides. Cool. All right, so we expanded those pixels out. And then the only other thing that's really nice is that blurry effect that we get. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and use a compound blur. A compound blur There we go. And this will be to kind of our liking. Right now it's at 20. That's a little high. So for right now, let's kind of set this to 5 or 6. And I'm going to do the same thing for the blur layer. I'm going to switch this to our fractal, which is generating our blur. So there we go. Now it's doing just what the black and white values are of our fractal. So we're already getting that nice little blurry effect. So, all right, cool. So we've got this little blurry heat distortion happening. And if you want it to be smaller and not so large, all you have to do is go back to your fractal. And let's go ahead and, we'll just see what it looks like. We'll bring this back down to little fractals. And we're getting, a little more details in there. All right, so let's fade this effect out. Now, if I use the transparency here, I think we'll get some weird sort of distortion on our letters. Yeah, so we're kind of getting, a double image out of there just by adjusting the opacity. So let's go ahead and start to fade this out after the arm comes up. So I want the arm right there. Let's go ahead and move our distortion to start right there. And I'm going to set a keyframe for the compound blur and the horizontal and vertical displacement here. So let's go ahead and select all those. We'll push U to see them all. And let's just have it fade out over time. And we'll just set these to all to 0. And let's kind of ease into the dissolve there. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. All right, cool. So we got that nice little distortion there. I mean, it also helps that Mark had some good little smoke effects and stuff like that on top of the footage. Helps really sell the effect. So that's just one example of how to use the heat wave effect on a 3D render. Let's go ahead and jump into some aerial footage here. I know I'm just going to copy these over for now. So let's go to this aerial footage. This is half aerial footage, half time lapse. It's just a quick sky replacement with this time lapse footage on top of my buddy Ryan's drone footage. So let's say we wanted a little bit of that heat wave distortion off in the distance. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste these same layers. And let's go back to the first frame here and make sure we don't have any keyframes. And we also might have to point it back to our fractal. Our displacement and our compound blur both lost our fractal layer. So let's go ahead and point these back to our fractal. And I'm going to bring this back over. All right, so now we're kind of back to our heat wave effect, our Sahara sort of looking heat wave effect. It's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and drop it down for this footage. And maybe this is a time where we do want this to be even smaller. So let's go ahead and keep dropping down the scale. And let's see 23% there. Let's see what that kind of looks like. So yeah, we got a little distortion in there. Let's go ahead and maybe we just kind of want it on the ground going off into the distance. So let's go ahead and mask this off. I'm going to kind of go along the horizon right there. All feathering here. And now we have it just kind of affecting our ground area. Let's go ahead and just take a look at that. All right, cool. So it's a little bit heavy on it. We might want a little bit faster movement on this. So just to take a look at what that might be like real fast, let's go ahead and bring our blur down a little bit more. We'll also bring our displacement down a little bit. And let's make our fractal even faster. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and adjust this expression, so it goes a little bit faster and we don't have to keyframe it. All right, so it's a little bit more crazy. Let's go ahead and jump back out and let's RAM preview this one more time. All right, so it would need a little bit of refining. You want to kind of tighten it up a little bit, but it's sort of a way to give that highway Sahara heat distortion effect all built inside of After Effects. Cool, so there we go. There's a built-in heat effect inside of After Effects without any plugins. As usual, if you want this effect, I'll have this project file available for download if you want it. Otherwise, thanks again, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial. We 3D tracked it, we have some Z-space going on, and it just looks pretty cool. We're gonna have our beams follow it no matter where we reposition it.